All right, we're going to finish our handout, the S5J Arithmetic Sequence Common Difference handout. So here we are in example 13, and it says, consider the finite sequence where we got this, write down the common difference. So here I've got u sub 1, here I've got u sub 2. So to find the common difference, I can take u sub 2 minus u subscript 1. So I got 5 minus negative 3. So my common difference, I don't need that subscript 2, the common difference is 8. Okay, so now find the number of terms in this sequence. So we know this is our final term, right? So using our formula, u subscript n equals u1. Let's write this down. Okay, and I'm going to substitute u sub n with 1189. And we know our first term is negative 3. Find the number of terms. We're trying to find n. And we know our common difference here is 8. So I'm going to put that in there. Solve for n. So you're going to be in a situation where there's, as you can see, there's 4 different things we could solve for. The final term, the initial term, how many terms are there in sequence, what's the common difference. There's 4 different things we could solve for, and often they'll give you 3 of them. Okay, so now what should I do? Probably first easiest thing to do is add 3 on both sides. And then I get 1192 equals n minus 1 times 8. Then I could divide both sides by 8. And then I get 149 equals n minus 1. Add 1 on both sides, I get n equals 150. So that's the number of terms all in order to get your final term to be 1189. Okay, let's do some more problems. Okay, the first term in an arithmetic sequence is negative 10. The 7th term is negative 1. So we can start off with our formula. Right, and we know that our 7th term is negative 1. So I'm going to have n is equal to 7, and that term is negative 1. And our first term, the first term is negative 10, so I'm going to put that in there. And we're trying to find the common difference. Okay, so now I've got negative 1 equals negative 10 plus 6d. Okay, so I can add 10 on both sides. I get 9 equals 6d. And then divide both sides by 6, and I get d equals 9 over 6, or d equals 3 halves. All right. Now we want to find the 15th term. So now that I've got d, I can say that my general formula is u sub n equals negative 10 plus n minus 1 times 3 over 2, right? We're using this formula. Our first term we know is negative 10. we know that d is now 3 over 2, so I need to solve this when n is 15. So u sub 15 equals negative 10 plus n minus 1 times 3 over 2. N is 15. Oops. Let's put that in there. Okay, so now I've got negative 10 plus 14 times 3 over 2. Well, 2 goes into 14 7 times. 7 times 3 is 21, so I've got negative 10 plus 21. So u subscript 15, the 15th term, is equal to 11, because negative 10 plus 21 is 11. Okay. I'm going to walk through doing questions 2 and 3. Find the value of B1, B2, and B3. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to plug in 1 in for n to find B1. So if I plug in 1 in for n, I have 1 here and 1 here. 2 times 1 plus 1 is 3, and then times 1 is 3. If I plug in 2 in for n, I've got 2 here and 2 here, so I get 2 times 2 times 2 plus 1. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5, and 5 times 2 gives me 10. And then I plug in 3 in for n, and we get 3 parentheses 2 times 3 plus 1. So 2 times 3 plus 1 is 7, times 3 is 21. So when you have the sequence, you get 3, 10, 21. Here I'm adding 7, here I'm adding 11. The common difference is not the same. This is not arithmetic. Okay, let's explain number 3. The first term of the arithmetic sequences are 5, 9, 13, 17. So if I take this 9 divided by 5, I'm going to find out that my common difference is 4. Okay, my first term is 5. So now I've got u subscript 1 and I've got d. So now I can write my equation. I've got u subscript 1, which is 5, and I got d, which is 4. So I'm just going to rewrite this equation like this, with 5 and 4 in place of u subscript 1 and d. Okay, question B. Determine whether or not 116 is a term of the sequence. So if I make this equal to 116, then we can find out if it is or not. So first step, subtracted 5 on both sides, we get this. Then divide both sides by 4, we get this. Then add 1 on both sides, I get this. This is not an integer, so 116 is not a term in the sequence. Okay, next. Okay, I'm going to walk through this one because this next one is a little tricky, maybe. So, in the arithmetic sequence, the third term equals 12 and the 10th term equals 40. And we're going to use the letter D for the common difference. Write two equations. Okay, so remember, u subscript n equals u1 plus n minus 1 d. So our first equation is with n being 3, so I'm going to say 12 equals u sub 1 plus 3 minus 1 d. Okay, I've plugged in 3 in for n, and my answer is going to give me 12. So let's simplify that. I've got u equals u subscript 1 plus 2d. Okay, that's my first equation. My second equation is 40 equals u subscript 1 plus, and n is 10, so 10 minus 1 times d. Okay, and I can simplify that as 40 equals u subscript 1 plus 9d. So there's my second equation. So write down two equations in u1 and d and show this information. Okay, so there are my two equations. Now we need to find the values of u1 and d. So taking those two equations, I'm going to write them out. 12 equals u subscript 1 plus 2d, and 40 equals u subscript 1 9d. And I'm going to subtract all of these. So subtract 40, subtract that. And the reason I'm doing subtraction is if I do that, now I can use elimination, because u subscript 1 minus u subscript 1, that's going to go away. 12 minus 40 gives me negative 28. 2d minus 9d is going to give me negative 7d. And if I divide both sides by negative 7, I get d equals negative 28 divided by negative 7. d equals 4. Now I can solve for u subscript 1. So let's just pick one of the equations. 12 equals u subscript 1 plus 2, and we already know that d is 4. So now I can find the first term. So 12 equals u subscript 1 plus 8, and then if I subtract 8 on both sides, I get u subscript 1 equals 4. Okay, so for question B, we've got our d value and our u sub 1 value. Okay. Question C, find the 100th term. Okay. Well, this was the answer for A. Our two equations. Okay. So question C, find the 100th term. So now, using our standard formula, okay. So we know u subscript 1 is 4. We know d is 4, right? That's what we just figured out. So now we need to find the 100th term. So u subscript 100 equals 4 plus 100 minus 1 times 4 equals 4 plus 99 times 4. And that simplifies to 400. Okay. The others, I'm going to show my work that I've done and walk through the steps. Okay, when a company first started, it had 85 employees. And it decided to increase the number of employees by 10 at the beginning of each year. So we started u sub 1 equals 85. Find the number of employees during the second year and the third year. So we keep adding 10 because we're increasing the number by 10 each year. So my common difference is 10. I keep adding 10, adding 10. Okay? How many employees will the company have during the 10th year? So I know u subscript 1 is 85. We know our common difference is 10 because we keep adding 10. So we want to find out the 10th year. I'm going to have to replace n with 10. Question C, after how many years will the company have 285 employees? So now we want our final answer to be 285, and we want to solve for n. So I think the first thing we do is we subtract 85 on both sides, then we can divide both sides by 10, and then we add 1 on both sides, and then we find out that it's going to be after 21 years. Okay, consider the finite arithmetic sequence. 1000, comma, 975, comma, 950. Write down the common difference. So if I take this term, subtract it from here, I'm going to have d equals negative 25. You know that the common difference is negative if the next term is smaller than the previous term. Okay. Question B, find the 10th term. Okay, so I'm going to plug in 10 in for n. We know our common difference is negative 25, so now we can just solve it. 1000 plus 10 minus 1 times negative 25, and we get this answer. Question C, find the number of terms of the sequence. Okay, so we know our final term is negative 225. So I have negative 225 equals 1000 plus n minus 1 times negative 25, which that's our common difference. So subtract 1000 on both sides. Divide both sides by negative 25. This divided by negative 25 gives me 49. So 49 equals n minus 1. So if I add 1 on both sides, we end up with n equals 50. Okay. Explain why the sequence is arithmetic. You know it's arithmetic because each time I go up, each time n increases by 1, we know that I increase by a constant amount. So I'm constantly adding 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2. Okay, question B, write down the common difference of the sequence. So if I'm increasing by 2, we know the common difference is 2. Write down the first term of the sequence. So the first term of the sequence is right here at negative 2. Write down the general term of the sequence. So here is my general formula. I'm replacing our first term with negative 2, and I'm replacing our common difference with 2. Determine whether or not the point 20, 36 lies on the graph of the sequence. Okay, so basically I'm going to start off by I'm going to put in 20 in place of n, and I'm going to put in 36 in place of u sub n. And we're going to see if this equates to equal on both sides. So I've got 20 minus 1, which gives me 19, and 19 times 2, which gives me 38, and then negative 2 plus 38 gives me 36. Therefore, yes, this is 20, 36 does lie on the graph of the sequence. Okay, last question. Okay, Pedro is making some patterns with sticks. Pattern 1 is made with 4 sticks, pattern 2 is made with 7 sticks, and so on. So if I count the sticks, there's 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Count these, I get 10. Count these, all I get 13. And so then we can start seeing the pattern. Each time I'm adding 3. So the next one is going to be 16, and the next one's going to be 19 if I continue the same pattern of adding 3. Question B. Find the number of sticks needed to make a pattern 20. So they're basically saying, okay, when n equals 20, how many sticks are we going to need? So then I have 20 minus 1, which is going to give me 19. 19 times 3 plus 4 is going to give me 61. Okay, question C. Find the pattern number for the pattern made with 127 sticks. So we're saying the final answer is 127, and we want to find out what n is going to be. So if my final answer is 127, I could subtract 4 on both sides to get 123 equals n minus 1 times 3. Then I can divide both sides by 3, and I get this, and I add 1 on both sides, and there's my final answer.